If you're a golfer who finds yourself in the rough quite a lot, if you're a golfer who really struggles out the sand, if you're a golfer that likes to open the club face up, that nice high shot there, it just feels so easy. Just so nice through the turf. Oh, finally hold on. There is a grind for everybody. What I love about these new wedges, and it's absolutely huge, is they are forged. The feel from these wedges is exceptional, and the groove design as well is really going to help you load up the spin. So I'm going to start with the SB. That is the standard bounce, and it's a standard bounce really because it's got 12 degrees of bounce. Now the bounce angle, so we keep it really simple, is basically the angle between the leading edge and my finger there, okay? It's basically how much gap we have at the front. And the idea is if you have the bounce there, it helps the club work through the turf, gives you a lot more freedom, gives you a lot more scope for those bad shots, because you don't always hit the perfect shot, do we, okay? And it's really important to have that margin of error when we play, and that's what the bounce is there. The bounce is there to help you in most situations. So we'll go through it from a fringe fairway lies if we're playing that basic chip and run, what I call the release one type shot, that low flighted chip and run shot. So we're going to play that ball position just inside the back foot, minimal forward shaft lean, nice narrow stance. Good idea to get about one club head there between the middle of your feet for a chip and run shot. Weight on the left. Try and make sure that your wrist is nice and flat here. We don't want to get the wrist too low. We want to hit a low shot. And feel like we're going to keep it fairly wide in the backswing. And the release point here, where the club releases you swing through, should point somewhere near that left tip, okay? So we're hitting it with a slight forward shaft lean. We are taking some of that bounce off when we hit it, but not all of it, in case we don't get that perfect strike. So I'll hit a few down there and just give you some feedback as to how these feel in terms of the different techniques. So, I mean, straight away, you can hear that noise on the strike. I mean, the acoustics for me as a coach and as a player is so important. That feedback I get from the noise is really important, and I could just feel that TP5 on the MG5 is so nice. If you're a golfer who's got, I would say, a fairly kind of standard angle of attack, and you like to play different release type short game shots, whether it be a lower flighted shot or a higher shot with a bit more release, this is a serious option for you. You can't really go wrong with this. It allows for so many different types of shots. Let's try a slightly higher shot down there now. You can see it just feeds through the turf exceptionally well with that gentle camber at the back. Okay, so the SB, great all-rounder. If you're just looking for a wedge, okay, you can't really go wrong with, this is pretty much it. The four-way camber in the SB, you know, the standard bounce, I should still be able to play it with that really. So I'm going to put the toe down, maybe go a little bit higher in the handle just to take a little bit more of the bounce off. And look, it still pops up absolutely fine. And again, just going back to how versatile these standard bounces are. Okay, you can just pop the handle up a little bit, takes that bounce off, and you can still play from real hard pan and still get some good results from these types of lies. So, you know, low bounce, lovely, probably a little bit easier, but with enough practice on your technique and the SB grind there, it was still absolutely fine to play the shot. The SC has a little bit more camber here in the heel and the toe, and quite a lot at the back there. So if you're a golfer that likes to open the club face up and perhaps play from different turf conditions, this really is a serious option. It's got lots of grinding in the heel, so if you want to open the club face up and play that sort of release three lob shot, okay, the heel still sits actually quite close to the ground there, so I can still play that nice high shot there. Nearly went in, but it didn't feel that heel kick. And what I really don't like personally is having the heel quite proud there so it can kick. And I opened that up on a fairly tight lie and did a full release three there, really released the club this way, and it just worked through so easily through the turf. In terms of hitting a low basic chip and run with this SC grind, it's got a little bit more camber at the front there, so it's a bit more versatile in terms of the SB. This is going to allow you to get better contacts off slightly firmer conditions. So if you're playing on a course that's sort of medium to firm, this might be something you could really consider. Just feel that leading edge just stays down a little bit longer, and it allows me to play that low flighted but quite high spinning shot. And that's a feature you will find with these wedges. With the sawmilled grooves, still got the raw face, you are going to get a lot more spin, which I'm sure a lot of you will be excited about. Oh, there we go. Nearly got that one. Let's see how this works off the firm downslope. Just kick to touch there. Get my weight a little bit more forward. Just slipped out. And see how we get on here. So ball forward, low to high, and that again came off really easily. So versatile, these wedges. Ball forward, a little bit in, a little bit of release. So that was interesting. I hit that about 2 inches before the ball, but you can see it's still gone to 3 feet. And that's the benefit of these wedges. This SC has got a wideish sole, okay, it is going to help it move through if you aren't perfect and still get the results there. The standard bounces are great. I mean, this is the SC. You can probably work the sand a little bit quicker with this, okay, if you want to get a little bit more height and a little bit more spin, this would be a little bit easier to help you get that. Okay, and we can let it splashing out really easily. Okay, so it really gets through it super easy there with that grind on the back. That's something I very much like the look of. Now the SX is a wider sole and it has this lovely reverse C at the back, okay, a little bit of camber at the back. So this is probably a little bit more friendly for some of you. It might be the wider sole. It's going to be fantastic out the bunkers. We will get to the bunkers shortly, but in terms of chipping, if you maybe don't play that much and if you do get some miss hits occasionally, this is going to be quite a friendly wedge for you. So I'm going to try and sort of miss hit this one on purpose now. I'm going to hit a little bit behind the ball. I hit that about 2 inches before the ball, and you can see it's only come up about six feet short of the hole. So it is super friendly with the wider sole, but that very clever camber at the back there just stops the club kicking too much. If you're looking for something a little bit more rounded that you can play all the shots, because remember the SX has got the widest sole. This is, you know, quite friendly in many respects, but it has got this camber at the back, which if I'm trying to hit it up in the air, shouldn't create too much of a kick, okay? It shouldn't be as easy to play with a low bounce. So I'm going to give this a go and I'll just let you know how I get on feel wise and what the feedback is to me with this wider sole. And that felt absolutely fine. In fact, that's probably played even better. It's going in. Oh, just short. That actually came off a little bit softer, and I gave that lots of release off a firm downslope, and because this is here is shaved off at the back there, that fed under the ball absolutely beautifully. So hopefully what I'm showing you here is this SX grind, the standard grind. This is absolutely fine. Even from specialist shots like this, you can still work it underneath. That bounced a little bit more, but it's still absolutely fine. Still stopped there, just 5 or 6 feet past the hole. Right, so we've got the SX. This is the widest sole, okay, but it has got that back camber, and this has got 11 degrees in the 60 here, which I've got in my hand. Play it the same way. Just so nice through the turf. Oh, finally hold one. But you see, just work through the turf there dead easily. If you have got this shot a little bit more bounce, might help you. But I'm showing you again, I'm playing great shots here off firm downslopes and upslopes, and it just shows the versatility of this standard bounce range in the MG5s, okay, whether it be the SX, the SC, or the SB. We've got the high bounce in the 56. This has got 14 degrees of bounce. And really the higher bounce options are good for golfers that maybe get quite steep into the ball, so maybe get the grip traveling down for a little bit too long. Leading edge might dig into the ground, and if you're a golfer that recognises that kind of divot, that little curly divot where the handle is traveling down and it's getting stuck, And you should really think about going for this, because this is going to really make it a lot friendlier if that's your miss, okay, if that's your bad shot, because with it being prouder at the back, it's going to want to keep it moving through the turf a little bit more. Obviously, as a coach, I'm always trying to improve your technique. I think it's important you try and work on your technique, and if you are a golfer that is digging too much, I'd really recommend you start letting the club release. You start making sure your body is opening up. That kind of keeps you away from the ground a little bit more and gets the club sliding. Even if you're still a bit nervy, let's say you've been a bit anxious about the ground condition for a while, then I think this is really going to help you mentally get yourself into good shape. And I'll do some release one chip and runs here. This is with the high bounce. And there, I actually hit that. I was a little bit steep and diggy there, but it just worked through still really, really easily. I mean, it does really allow you to perform with a little bit of a miss. That was really nice, played that really nicely. But that will come into its own if you're playing in soft conditions as well. So if you've got playing on a golf course which is soft, it's damp, that also is something you should consider, okay? So if you're playing off perhaps a links course where it's very firm and compact, this might not be for you, but soft parkland conditions and a little bit steep, definitely something to consider there. So if you're a golfer who finds yourself in the rough quite a lot, okay, you might be missing a few greens, or your golf course maybe has small greens and it just has this sort of cut around the green there, and you've got to make that good contact. Well, I probably would recommend having a slightly wider sole and a little bit more bounce if you find yourself playing this shot a lot. Very simply, the wider sole is just going to help it move through the rough rather than the narrow sole where it could catch a little bit more. So we go for this front pin here. Difficult lie, it's kind of got this little cushion behind it, which is awkward. And the big problem in the rough is the club gets caught, gets snaggy, and the ball just goes a few feet in front of you. Now, I'm hoping with a wider sole here, it's going to slide and glide through it much, much easier than the lower bounce options here. So let's give this a go. It just works nice and smoothly out. And again, going back to what I said earlier about the spin, you'll notice playing these out the rough and the wet conditions, you still get an incredible amount of spin. That's what I'm noticing the most with this MG5 wedge. I mean, look how softly that's coming out, landing like a bag of sugar. So that is working so easily through it. I'm trying to give myself a lie where it's a bit more down. Big cushion behind this one. So I'm going to lean into this a little bit more, lean left. Tighter with my left hand. I like to grip it tight here out of these rough conditions. Very easy for it to flip otherwise. And just really make sure that the heel leads. Just pops out so easy even from a lie like that. So the wide sole and the 14 degrees of bounce this 56 has can really help it move through the rough like this. And that felt really easy. Wow, that felt so easy. Yeah. So I think a lot of you, sometimes out of rough, you get, you look like you're almost trying to kill a snake, like you're going way too quick, trying to hit it way too hard. And with the benefit of the sole like this, is it just wants to work its way through. It doesn't get caught. So you don't need to hit it hard. And because you don't need to hit it as hard, you start to feel it. And look at a lot of those there, I'm just like 2 or 3 foot tap-ins. And that's what you're looking for out of the rough. A lot of players get very much, afraid of being in the rough. But with the right equipment and the right technique, there really is nothing to be fearful of. And it just pops out so easily. So we've moved to the upslope, and it should be an easy shot because you're on a launch pad and it's going to go sort of up free. However, a lot of golfers struggle with upslopes because the club would tend to dig in. So the player would maybe play the ball a little bit too far back and the club would go into the slope. And a higher bounce option really would make sense if you are playing on a golf course where there's these little ridges before the green, and perhaps you find that shot a lot when you play. But I would play the ball further forward and just really use a lower to higher shot, and that felt so easy up there. Okay, and that was the HB 14 degree 56. So if you do find yourself having this shot a lot, I would recommend a higher bounce just to make sure that the club is always working up the slope, and that allows you to play shots like that. If you're a golfer who really struggles out the sand and your main priority is just to get out of bunkers, this HB 56 14 degree is really the easiest club to use to get out of the sand. Okay, it's got the most amount of bounce. So as you strike the sand is wanting to work forward and it's wanting to splash the ball out a lot easier. So it just feels so easy through the sand. It just works through it absolutely effortless. You can see how I've kept a nice shallow divot from front to back. That's the bounce really hitting and then keeping moving through rather than going down and digging too much. Keeping a nice shallow contact through the sand. Okay, super easy, really splashing through, okay. So HB, if you're struggling, serious thought to that. If you are that links golfer, if you are playing off very firm conditions, the MG5 is available in the LB, which is a low bounce. So basically, okay, we have less of the back here showing. It's very much sharper at the front. It's got a little camber at the front and the back. So quite a lot of thought and design has gone into this actually, and this is going to allow you to really get good contacts from firm lies and allow you to play all of the different types of shots that you need. This is so versatile. It maybe does suit the shallower player, the player that gets the club sort of bruising the ground a little bit more, and the golfer that perhaps does play on firmer surfaces. If you do use the 3 releases and you're playing off firm conditions, this will be so good for you because you can still do release 2s, release 3s, even off firm lies. In a way in which it's been designed, it still allows you to just easily get the club under the ball. I mean, that's a really firm lie there, and you could hear that contact. You could see how much that ball still was loaded with spin, even from these lies. I mean, that feels great. So if you're perhaps a slightly sort of highly skilled golfer with a lower handicap, this might be something in which you would consider. There we go, nearly hold that one. So that's the low bounce. Also, if you're match playing in bunkers where there isn't much sand, let's say your golf course, a lot of the sand is maybe quite compact, this also is something that you would consider. We found a really steep downslope here, and you might play on a golf course where it is extremely hilly, it's very slopey, and actually the slopes will play a big part in which grind you will go for. Now, obviously you can't change your grind for every shot, but what I'm going to go through here is off a downslope, how actually ideally is a low bounce wedge. That is really what you would want. That stops the back kicking, particularly if you're trying to go in the air with it a little bit. This is a low bounce, 8 degree 56, and if you are off a downslope, I would always recommend, if you possibly can, doing a chip and run release 1, okay? That is the safest way to get a contact off a downslope. So the ball play just outside the back foot, a little bit of hinge, down the slope and sort of work it into the bank and then towards the pin. That really would be the way to play this shot. But sometimes we have to go in the air. Imagine there's a bunker in front of me now and I've got to get it up in the air. Well, this low bounce option is really going to help me get under the ball, even off a firm downslope, which is an extremely tough shot, but I've got the right club to give me a chance to do it. So I'm going to go wider in the stance, really lean on the left-hand side here, pick it up a little bit early with a wrist hinge, still do a release 1, maybe to 2. I'm going to add a little bit more release in there and see if the lower bounce is going to help me get the ball up in the air. It might be difficult to keep it short of the hole here, but I'm going to see if we can get the height. So forward, really tight lie, really steep downslope. So you can see even with that, oh, it's nearly gone in. Even with that lie, that felt so easy to still get the ball up in the air and stop it. That really was. So if you're playing a golf course with and you find yourself lots of downslopes, this LB might be a serious option for you. So some of you might find these really hard pan bait lies. If you're playing off golf courses with these sort of lies, then a slightly lower bounce option might help you. This is the low bounce, loads of toe camber, really shaved off in the toe. So you could get the toe down and work a little bit out to in and sort of nip these off these lies really easily like that and still get some really good contacts, because it is so much of the bounce has been shaved off in this place of the sole, so it's going to be able to nip underneath it like I did. If you're a golfer who plays on golf courses where there isn't as much sand, let's say it's a little bit more compact, okay, you hear that, pretty compact there, then you might want to go into a a lower bounce, okay, if that's suited your general ground conditions, you're playing off firm conditions and you're playing in bunkers with less sand, then a low bounce probably would make sense, because if there's less sand, what you don't want to have is releasing for the club to kick. So lower bounce here, I can just play this a little bit more down, a little bit steeper now, and that works through absolutely fine, okay, and towards the pin. So you've really got to think about the conditions you're in. If you tend to play the same golf course all the time and there's less sand, perhaps less bounce would make sense. But remember, these standard bounce options, you really aren't going to go too far wrong with those through all conditions, really. So hopefully that's made sense. It's given you a little bit more flavour for the different grind options that the MG5 TaylorMade wedge has. If you've got some sort of rather more specialist conditions, such as firm or soft, or you struggle with a particular shot, I've gone through those, so you might fancy the low bounce or the high bounce, for example. But I've shown you there, you can play all the shots, absolutely all the shots, with the standard bounces. The SB, I mean, that one I played over from the firm lie there, absolutely fine, went through really easily. The SC, I really like the SX. So any of those three bounces are really going to suit the vast majority of you out there. But honestly, you can't do better than going out there and just trying them. The forging is like a feel I haven't felt before in a wedge. So go out there, try them, try the different grinds, if possible off turf, and I'm sure you'll come out with the right wedge. So hopefully that's helped, and speak to you soon.